Okay, this is 15 Minutes with Blake. I'm your host, Blake Linklater. And on the show with me today is Graham Bergsma. Did I say that right, Graham? Your last
Yeah,
name?
yeah, Bergsma. It's Dutch, more specifically Frisian. Yeah, Sma. Yeah.
Cool, fair enough. So Graham has been, Graham, you've been all over the place from playing lacrosse, and we have some same workplace history with Freedom 55 and Financial Horizons. And then he actually found out we both went to Canisius for teachers college. And actually, I wonder if we were in the same class at some point. We might have, because I did it in 2010 too.
Yeah,
So
I was there in 2011. Like I graduated Fairfield in 2010 and then did 2011. I was in the sort of accelerated. So I basically just had all turbos, like 2.5 hour classes, Mondays and Tuesdays. So
yeah, yeah, I did the same thing, but I remember completing it in 2010. So you were a year
yeah,
after me on it, then
yeah.
likely. But so yeah, why don't we go ahead? Tell me a little bit what you're doing now. You've been have a wealth of experience. Tell me the audience what you're doing, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. I mean, I guess to understand really what I'm doing is very similar to what I have done in the past. You mentioned a little bit about it. So I started as an advisor with Freedom 55 and found actually a great deal of success there. I wasn't there for very long because I got headhunted out for an opportunity with one of the insurance carriers to run their sort of direct contract advisor high-end coaching. And was pretty successful there as well. And then ended up sort of following that transition. The reason why I left was I was a big believer in a new format of providing support to advisors. So for a long time, there was really just the two monoliths, which was the career agent model, which was I'm an advisor for this specific company. They train me, they house me, and I sell only their product. And then there was the brokerage world, which was often sort of a lonely place. You had access to all of the different products, but there wasn't necessarily that same level of support. And so the insurance carrier that I ended up moving to from Freedom 55 was trying to sort of meld those two worlds and find the best of both. I think they had some success in it. I think they were sort of an early adopter to that, and they had some troubles, but we ended up being pretty successful in that. But I wanted to kind of further that, and so I went all the way to the brokerage side with Financial Horizons, one of the largest distributors of financial services in the country. But really just brought that career shop level of support to them. And in doing so, had a great deal of success, took the territories that I was involved in from being one of the least productive in the country to by far the most productive in the country in a short period of time. But one of the things that I realized was that there was a greater opportunity for me to have an impact on a greater number of people if I left that sort of corporate, I don't want to call it a cage, but that corporate environment. So I went independent. So I'm doing the same thing, which is sort of A to Z, soup to nuts, consulting and support for advisors in the independent space. So everything from helping them to create a new narrative to be more successful in their prospecting and meeting acquisition, specifically in the high net worth space, to processes to better serve their clients and better bring in the accountants and lawyers and how to have those conversations, and being able to, one of the things that I've been very, very lucky at in my time has been being able to develop relationships with really wonderful and key people at the different insurance companies. And so because of that, I have, the ability to sometimes navigate those difficult waters that are dealing with insurance companies. And so that's been one of the other areas where I've been able to help out advisors, is taking advantage of some of my relationships at the carriers to get things done in a more timely fashion. But yeah, it's gone from beyond that. Like when I really moved over, I really wanted to focus on that large case support and doing that work, but it's expanded from there. I've been doing work with the insurance companies on, for instance, doing an 8-session series with one of the large carriers to help their entire national wholesaling team. Having discussions around product design when carriers are looking at bringing new products to market. I'm a big believer in providing people, entities, whoever it is, with the information of what's going on. I'm never going to be arrogant enough to tell them what they should or shouldn't do. But I think if we can help them to have as much information about what's out there and what clients are looking for and what advisors are looking for, they can then make decisions around product or anything else from an informed perspective. And they'll be held to account for what those decisions are. But as long as they're making them from the best amount of information, then I think overall things will be done better. And then I'm also doing a fair amount of speaking. I actually am quite active in the advocacy community. I'm the program chair for the board in Greater Hamilton, used to be on the Toronto board. I've been asked to speak at the Abacus Atlantic School coming up this summer in PEI. I'm a big believer in literacy in both for advisors and for the general public. I think our industry for far too long has attempted to confuse and sort of keep information at bay. And I think that the more and more information we can get out to advisors and clients, I mean, they're smart people. And if we can let them, again, make those decisions with all the information at their fingertips, then they're going to be better armed to make better decisions, and the public as a whole will be better off. So that's a lot of what I'm doing these days.
Cool. Yeah, and I kind of feel the same way. Like with one of the firms I used to be with, that I always felt only the upper echelon got to hear all the best stuff and got the best stuff and hear it. And so when you said you felt firms were withholding information at one of the firms I was with, I felt that, and I left that firm since then, and that was one of the reasons. Like, well, so and so saying this, but we're not hearing any of it, and so what's really going on? And I think it's important for transparency at all levels coming up is going to be is important.
And I'm a big believer that if you, and I mean, I can't speak for anyone else on why they would withhold that kind of information, but generally what I found is if somebody's looking to withhold that information, they're worried about losing the power that comes with the one-sided nature of that information. And to me, if that information is all that's your value, you're not really adding any value. Like, the way I look at it is I'm more than happy to share the information that I've accrued with anybody who wants to have it, because my value comes so far beyond just that information. It's communication styles and relationships and everything else. So I'm a big believer that you cannot withhold that information. You've got to give people the benefit of the doubt. Now, with that being said, there are people out there that are looking to take and not give, and you have to have those mistakes and then go from there and decide how you want to deal with them. But I'm a big believer in giving people the benefit of the doubt on the front end.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me about two things: your biggest success and your biggest failure so far.
So it's interesting. I talked about this a fair amount, and like, I have, from a numbers perspective, like the organic growth that happened at all of my stops along the way is pretty crazy, but it's not what I'm the most proud of. It's probably, statistically, what are the greatest successes, but I look at this more on my success was a couple of things. One was the culture that I think I helped to create at Financial Horizons within that Toronto branch office was trying to break down the silos between ops and sales, trying to really help the different people within our operations side, whether it was new business or in-force or contracting, to help everybody see the perspective and the trials and tribulations that the other members were seeing, so that we could really come together as a cohesive unit and everybody could be operating with one goal in mind, which was advisor experience, which eventually leads to client experience. But being able to get that group to genuinely care about each other and work for each other. And I think a lot of that was done by what I used to call being the sword and shield for them, was creating an environment where they felt safe and protected to do what they needed to do, and that I would take the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune for them. Because they were genuinely really, really good people who really deserved a lot of credit for the success that we had there, and so I tried to do what I could to get that for them, and to do what I could to sacrifice to try to make their jobs easier. So I think that culture was one thing that I was really proud of, and would be my greatest success. Is that's what
Okay,
I would say.
cool. And what about your biggest failure?
Um, had a lot, right? You don't. Every failure is just an opportunity to get better. So as long as you don't make the same mistakes twice, but I would say probably I think my greatest failure, and I don't want to, that'll interview cliche of how to turn that
Yeah.
question into a positive. I want to be a little bit more self-aware, and say, I think my greatest failure was my inability to separate my passion and my beliefs from an understanding of the hierarchy in which I found myself.
Hmm.
I'm a person that cares a lot. If you ask around, I'm not one to hold punches. I'm not one to you know where you stand with me. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm very upfront about things, and I cared a lot about, for instance, the success at Financial. I wanted that company to do very, very, very well, and I wanted all the people there to do very well. And I had pretty strong beliefs backed up by the data on what would make that successful. But I also I don't think at the time I had the maturity to step back and to fully allow myself to understand that it wasn't my company, right?
Hmm.
It's not my decisions. That's not my, and that even if on the surface I didn't always agree with everything that they did, that nobody was doing things specifically to try and be bad. And so I needed to have more ability to take a step back and to work within that system. And I think eventually I would have come to the same idea. It wasn't anything against them. It's not the way I'm wired to work within a corporate environment, right? I'm a guy that needs to go and put my money where my mouth is and be able to fall on my face or be wildly successful.
Hmm.
And luckily, it seems like, at least to initially, been pretty successful on this independent side. I'm lucky enough to have really great advisors and people that I work with. Um, but yeah, so I think that would be probably my greatest failure, which funnily enough led to what will hopefully be my next greatest success and being out on this side. But I think even if I ended up at the same place, I think I could have ended up here differently and been been better to some of the people along the way, and
Hmm.
given them more of a benefit of the doubt. I mean, it all came from a place of passion and a place of true um, love. Really, all of it came from a place of love, but I could have gone about it in a better way. That yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be my thought on my greatest failure.
Yeah. We live, we learn, and I think I heard it from strategic coach where he said like most entrepreneurs are unemployable. Like they're not
Yeah,
meant to be in a corporate environment because for a variety of reasons. So,
yeah,
and I find that that is common with many entrepreneurs and advisors who go independent or it's they live, they learn, but there's just something about being in corporate that they don't. It just doesn't resonate, or they think they can do things better, and personality thing.
yeah. And I think there's a lot of value though to that for any entrepreneur to not just be able, but to really see that, right? Like I think there's a lot of value as an entrepreneur to know, yeah, you just don't fit as an
Yeah,
employee.
it's so true. Yeah, there is a lot of value in recognizing that about any entrepreneur,
Yeah.
that and being okay with it, that you just don't fit, and you got to find a way to make your own success, whatever that is. Cool. So what do going on that? What do you think's been one key to your success to date?
I think it depends on how you want to look at it. I think all of it comes down to a real true belief in and a process and a system, which has been all centered around one thing, which is sort of user experience, whether that is the advisor or whether that is the client. But when every decision that you make about every way in which you communicate, every piece of copy that you put together, every presentation that you do, when every decision is centered around that North Star of end user experience, you make the right decisions, right? Like whether it's whatever it is, if I'm building something or I'm doing something or I'm trying to create a new narrative, if I'm thinking about this on, okay, what's the actual advisor going to be going through? What's their, is this going to make it easier? Is this going to make it better for them? Is that going to make their clients have a better experience so that they get more referrals, which is good? Like, as all of that stuff, I think, and being at the heart of it has been what has created the success. And then more specifically has been a never-ending thirst for knowledge, always trying to learn more. And whether that's, through relationships out there in the industry, or whether it's through periodicals, or whether it's through, finding mentors that are as open and ready to share some of that knowledge as you want to take it. That was really important. But then I think the biggest piece that is learning that all of the technical knowledge in the world in what we do is pointless if you don't have the ability to get it across to people in simple, relatable ways. Like I'm a guy that over the years has been, I don't know, accused of using flowery language or being, very wordy. But one of the things that has been a huge change for me has been the ability in the right circumstances to just be a lot simpler. Just like, why use 10 words to say something when you can say it in 4? And being able to put myself in the shoes of an advisor or of a client, as I've been both, and being able to really, because like I said before, our industry has been about confusing people for a long time. And especially when I deal almost specifically in the high net worth and ultra high net worth space. These people aren't stupid. They didn't make all this money by being dumb.
Yeah.
And we make them feel stupid by throwing acronyms and jargon that half the advisors in the country don't understand, let alone clients. And so spending time to be able to break down complex strategies and being able to make them very simple yields to much, much better understanding from clients. They feel more ownership in the process. They feel better about it. Means shorter sales cycle, means bigger checks, means bigger everything. But it all comes down to just a better user experience. So I think that the communication style has been the biggest piece of my success.
Yeah. And I think I too am a huge fan of simplifying and keeping things simple. And like half the clients, like you said, don't understand anything. So simplify it and make it in terms they can understand, and use analogies, use metaphors to make it relatable, and just keep it simple for them. And that's how you end up winning more business, not with all the, coefficient, beta, blah, 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 standard deviation, cash value. They don't know what that means. They just want to know what it's going to do for them, and keep it simple.
And I mean, being informed by that knowledge and being able to keep that as part of it is important. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be brought up in that way. And I mean, even it's dangerous to even tell they don't understand. It's not that they don't understand, right? Like it's that the information hasn't been presented properly to them. Like, and it's also, it's just one of those little things. Like, I try to stay away from the words educate or understand or anything. Like, it's why I've really honed in on the word literacy. One, it's just non-threatening. People don't seem to take a lot of threat from the idea of literacy, but I think that's it, right? They're not, these people are very smart people. They've been smart and learned a different skill set and different knowledge set. And so if you just open them up to the knowledge set over here, they will learn it because they are smart. And going with that assumption that they are smart enough to learn it, and give them the respect of sort of giving them the whole kitchen sink, but doing so in a way that is easier for them to codify, works. At least how I found it across my decade of experience.
Well, we're coming up towards the end. I kind of, like to keep these around 15, 20 minutes. and everything. What's one action step that my listeners can take to either get more high net worth clients or grow their business, or just
Call me.
one
No, I'm
action
just
they can go ahead?
I was gonna say just call me, but no, I think finding a North Star, right? Understanding that the conversation doesn't necessarily need to be complex, and that many people or many advisors, when they're even looking in the high net worth space or really in any space, center their conversations around the idea of estate planning or um, uh, mortality, really, right? And most people, doesn't have to be client, most people don't like having a conversation around spending their money in the here and now to solve somebody else's problem 40 years from now, and they have to be dead for it to be a good deal.
Yeah.
And so, we've evolved this idea of insurance as an asset class or tax advantage investing and using permanent whole life or whatever else it is. And that's a
Mhm.
great idea, but we tend to get lost in numbers and spreadsheets and data. And to me, simplifying that down into the idea of what what are the clients going to be left with after all of this? So if they do their traditional investing, they're losing money to tax. If they're doing investing in insurance, that portion they're losing money, but they're losing money to insurance costs. And it doesn't matter whether they're losing it to taxes, fees, insurance costs. All clients care about is which one are they going to have more money in. And if you can simplify it down to that one number, what I like to call moneyballing it, and just figuring out either as a percentage, like what's the drain or the tax rate, or really just for every $1 million that you make, which one's going to leave you with more, whether it's losing it to taxes or insurance costs or fees or whatever else, which one are you going to have more access to?
Yeah.
And as a starting point, that is a better conversation. And it's by no means the end point, because you probably have to get into planning and to structure and to making sure that they've got the insurance that they need, because at the end of the day it's still insurance. But
Mhm.
it's a strategy it's kind of like, really 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 good educational kids programming that is actually kids are learning but they think they're having fun.
Yeah.
It's being able to do that. It's helping people to have the conversation in a way that they want to have it, so that you can get them the assistance and the advice that they truly need.
Yeah.
Don't be so hung up on what people need. And if we want to give one piece of advice to be successful, forget what you think is important.
Hmm. That's
We all have ideas on what we think is better, whether it's early cash value or late cash value or pricing or anything else. Forget it. What matters is what's important to the client.
yeah. I like that. I like that. It's so true. Forget about everything you think is important for that meeting and focus on what does the client think is important.
Yeah. What are they trying to accomplish?
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, look, it's been a pleasure speaking with you and hearing about your successes and a bit of your journey. How can people get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to reach out if they want some information, if they want to call you, as we said?
Yeah,
Um,
they can reach out via cell phone, email, LinkedIn. Any of those work. I don't know whether have the ability to put it up in post production, but if not,
yep.
my cell number 647-273-1552, and my email address is Graham @g3 wealth.com, and just find me on LinkedIn at Graham Bergsma. More than happy to have conversations with any advisors on really anything.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks again, Graham. It's been a pleasure. As always, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this episode. You can hit me up on all social media platforms, but give me some comments on this episode, what you thought, what you liked, what you didn't like. You can reach out to Graham. I'll put those up in the notes and everything. And pleasure. Have a great week, and we will talk to everybody next week.
Thanks so much for having me, Blake. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys for listening.